Welcome, men. Welcome to our spring Wildman call. This gives me an opportunity to dive in a little more with our journey together here as men, as brothers, as wildmen on the path of excellence, of pursuing our dreams, unfolding and supporting one another, and stepping just that much closer to our true nature and to our true service and work here in this world. Wild man work, wild man play, wild man journey. This is the journey of diving deep into that quiet, eternal, internal space, to allow that to unfold and inform, direct our movements, our thoughts, our consciousness, to hold us in integrity with each other, with our families, with our work, but most of all with our spirit and the spirit that we come together with. So thank you for taking some time to join us this evening and to check in with each other, listen to one another, and also to hear some of the seasonal teachings from some of our facilitators, dreamers who have helped bring this community together into the place where it now is. So thank you for joining us. And we're going to take a moment here to allow a few of the men who have helped to get this whole dream into motion over the last few years to just check in and say what wildman work is for them. So I'll go first and model. I'm Jeremy Shavy, and I do wildman work because it brings me not only closer to that true, intuitive, deep sense of knowing inside of myself, but it also brings me closer in that union with my brothers, with those who I know very well, and with those who I'm just beginning to know. And so with that, I'm in, and I'm going to turn it over to Six Owls.
Thank you. I'm Robert Six Owls, and I do wildman work because it allows me to access this deep inner stillness within. We're going to transfer it now to Grandfather.
Yeah, so my name is Grandfather Mowgli, and I do wild man work because there's a wild man who lives inside of me, and he's been shamed, and he's been held back, and I have held him back, and I want to learn how to set him free in such a way that I don't feel alienated by this world, but instead I feel like I belong, that I am indigenous to this world.
Oh.
And with that, I will turn it over to my brother James.
I'm James Mayfield Smith, and I do wildman work because this work helps me to get in touch with my inner clarity, which brings me self-confidence, which allows me to give my gifts fully in the world and really feel like the man that I came here to be. You're up, Jeremy Pager.
I'm Jeremy Pager, and I do wildman work because it really helps me stay connected to all my relations, to this world, to this earth, to my brothers, my sisters, my family, and this earth. It helps me to remember who I really am.
Joseph, would you share with us why you do wildman work?
Yes, I do wildman work because of the deep connection to my higher self, my primordial male essence, that sacred giant within. And I love the wild man because I love to see the lights come on in the hearts and the eyes of all the men that get connected, whether it be the very first time or all the times that they come. I love to see the lights turn on.
Nice. And then I'd like to get a blessing from Grandfather. If you can bless us, please.
I ask the wild man who lives within each of us to bless us with the courage to walk in a good way and give the gifts and celebrate this gorgeous spring that's happening all over the place right now. We honor the springtime. We honor the sacred cycles. We honor you, wild man, and we feel those blessings coming right back to us. Thank you. Thank you. Oh.
No.
Thank you, grandfather. Thank you. And so, men, thank you for joining us on this call. We have a couple of teachings for you. I'm going to do one, and then Jeremy Pager is also going to follow up with a teaching. You know, it's spring. It's spring, and there is rebirth out there. And so I want you to take a moment and just, in your mind's eye, remember the last time you were outside and you saw the grass is no longer yellow. It is now green. And you saw the buds have not only come up out of the trees, but they've turned into leaves, and now there are leaves on the trees. If you look around, you'll also see trees that are pink. There's just flowers everywhere. Spring is about life, friends. Mother Earth is coming alive. And so we can feel that. You can just go out and you can see everywhere is coming alive. There's this rebirth happening all around us. And it makes me wonder. I wonder, since, you know, I'm a part of life and I'm a part of the world, if everywhere I look around, there's this rebirth, I wonder if maybe there's this rebirth within me as well. Maybe I too am greening. Maybe there's this flowering, this blooming going on within me. So I want to take a moment and just feel within and feel. Can you feel where you're blooming? Can you feel where your spring has sprung? And you might be answering yes. And you might be answering yes and no. Because unlike puppies and kittens and bumblebees and trees, we actually can get in the way of our spring. You know, that's why we have Wildman Gatherings in the first place, is we get in the way of our own spring. Our jobs get in the way of our spring. Our relationships and the way we don't fully show up for ourselves gets in the way of our spring. The way that we don't move forward in our career, the way we play small and stop short and don't believe in ourselves and listen to those old tapes that are going on in us, that all gets in the way of our spring, of the greening inside of us. And so I'm going to ask you to take a moment and feel within and see, where am I getting in the way of my spring? What is getting in the way of my wild man fully greening up? What is getting in the way? So take a moment and just take 3 breaths and breathe into that and listen for the inner knowing of what is getting in the way of my spring. Is it that job that you've stayed in, even though you know it's time to leave? Is it the things that you haven't said because you're afraid of how they'll be heard? Is it all the different ways that we don't move forward with what we know is our gift in the world? All the ways we don't shine our light? Well, the lesson of spring is that spring doesn't just happen. It's a rebirth, and it's built upon a death. Winter is the season of death. It's a season of silence where we go within and we get really silent and things die before they have a rebirth. In order for that tree, that oak tree, to come up out of that acorn, the acorn actually has to destruct. It has to die. And so the invitation here, as we move into spring, as we feel the waves of spring, and we want to ride that current and surf that current, if you really want to do that, there's got to be a death involved. You've got to die to something in order for something to actually take root and move forward and let that energy run through you. So this is our chance, men. We don't have to do it alone. We've got wild man brothers here, and all of us, there's something in us asking us to die, asking for some part to die or some part to be attended to. It needs, maybe it just needs nutrition. Maybe it needs to be attended to. Maybe there's some part of our little boy that is longing for our attention, that is longing for love. And we keep looking for it out there, but it's us that has to bring that love. Or maybe it's some part of us that needs to give this gift, and we've got to do that. And so what do we have to let die in order to do that? Well, what's getting in our way? What's getting in the way of my spring? What is being asked to die so that spring can arise and flow through me so that I can surf the waves of green that Mother Earth is just handing to us? You know, it's about removing the dam so the river can flow. Where are you dammed up, man? I know where I'm dammed up. I've been working this. I am dying a good death. There are things in my life that I'm saying, this isn't working for me. And, you know, I'm going to do the emotional work so that I can really tap into spring and let myself blossom. So is now your time? Are you going to be in sync with the seasons? Are you going to allow the death that needs to happen for this rebirth to move forward? Are you going to allow that? And so Six Owls has a question for you. We're going to do a little work on that, and then we're going to go on, and Jeremy Pager is going to give us some more good teaching to help guide us on our way.
All right, men, I'm going to ask you each to check in by answering the following question. As a wild man in spring, what has died in me, or what is dying in me? You ready, Joe?
Yeah, I'm ready. What is dying in me is clutter and disorganization. I was starting to clean out this pseudo type garage in my basement area today, and it's dying. And I look at it and I go, why have I let this get cluttered? What part of my life is this? And so that's dying away. My computer desktops, I mean, everywhere I look, it just has to be clean and organized, and it's feeling really good because the energy's moving in that direction. Oh.
Thank you, Joseph. Next, we're going to go and check in with Kenny.
I'm Kenny Aldridge, and what's dying in me in this spring is I'm dying out to not being able to speak my voice and being able to be who I am and let myself shine and grow in the work that I need to be doing and let it be what it should be.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate your work. James, you're talking?
Excellent. So I'll tell you what's died in me. I've been launching a business for months now, and there's a way that I've been afraid. I've been afraid to like really go on a limb and do it. And so I've been waffling and getting all kinds of training and all kinds of stuff. And I know that is ready to die in me, and I'm ready to shine my light in a bigger way. That's what I'll share today.
Very good. Number 2.
Everything. So many people in my life are dying. I really have gotten to a place in a big death with the securities or the illusion of securities in my life that are no longer there. And I've really had to surrender in a big way to trusting the teachings that I've taught for years and have believed in, but really have had to really trust it and die to those false securities, and then also dying in me, just kind of a need to disassociate. The little tricks I do to disassociate are not working anymore, and I know that I'm lying to myself. So that's also dying, and I'm excited. I'm excited for spring. I'm excited. So.
Thank you, brother. I'm going to go next. So what's dying in me is my need for other people's approval, giving my power away, not showing up the way I would like to show up in relationships with everybody across the board, because I'm scared that my truth is going to hurt their feelings and holding back. And that's really up for me. That's really what's laid down and turning into compost now. We're going to go to number 1.
All right, stepping in. What's dying for me right now is I am claiming more time for myself and my connection with the wilds. I get back from these 2-week journeys where I'm leading people in remote places or long weekends. I'm so alive. I've just spent several weeks doing exactly where I initiated all of this work from. And then I come home and, there's all the business stuff, which part of me enjoys that as well. But then come all the distractions of, bleeping texts and, phone calls and all these things, which keeps it real and keeps it alive. This is the modality that we work in. But I also have all these women in my life, my partner, Carrie, and my ex-wife, Christy, and my daughter, and everybody's wanting energy and wanting something. I'm not sure exactly what it is sometimes. I think they all want to be wild too. I think that's what it comes down to. But the essence is I start feeling cramped and I'm just like, and so we've officially decided that, this is for public domain, that I officially have another spirit totem now, and his name is Shrek. And too many people come into my swamp, and I want them out. Get out of my swamp! And it's such a great feeling to have a partner who understands that there is an ogre inside of me who's just like, when the ogre comes out, it's because Jeremy needs time out in the forest with the plants, with the garden. And I had a good test with that today. Carrie and Quetzal were doing their first breath work in Asheville here, and so I went to support them. And I didn't go on a journey because the whole time I was thinking about doing my garden and the next piece of sound equipment that I was going to get in order to be able to do multi-layered soundscapes for shamanic journeys and whatnot more. And so it's like this place where it's just like, no, and taking time for me means taking time for me and not showing up for somebody else's program thinking that's taking time for me. So that's what I'm pushing up against right now. And I decided I'm taking the whole day off Tuesday and I'm going rappelling down waterfalls and looking at rare wildflowers with a couple friends. And I'm just disappearing because, Joseph and I are going to be doing this Wildman spring this coming weekend with our sacred agreements. And I've had a lot of things pushing up against me, reminding me what my sacred agreements are and how to continue to evolve with those. But first and foremost is the sacred agreement with self inside. And that is what I'm doing this week, is preparing myself to be present with the brothers that are all showing up this coming weekend, and to be present with my brother Joseph, who is so amazingly stepping forward, and we're making some real stuff happening here in Asheville. So I'm stoked, and that's what I'm pushing against. Oh.
So then we're going to spend about 30 seconds with Grandfather Mowgli with your check-in.
What has died in me is a lot of identity and a lot of youthful, springy energy, and everything that's alive in me is growing out of that death. And so I honor everything that has died in me so that I can flourish in this spring. All
right, we're going to pass it on to number 2.
6 hours. Remind me of like the television broad, where they're raising money on television. So in the Toltec mythology, they talk about the angel of death. And the angel of death is really the teacher of life. From my point of view, as we die to these things, as James was saying, we create energy, we create the power to manifest, in a sense, and spring is very much about that to me. It's like, we go into the long night, the winter, and we rejuvenate. And then, we're here in this place and we die, and it's, what do we want to create? What do we want our lives to look like? What do we want to blossom as we move into this spring, and really being deliberate with our intention. Because as we let go, as we die, as we surrender, that energy, if we don't really be deliberate, from my experience of what we do with that energy, what we do with that power of manifestation, in a sense, it tends to go down the old ravines or the old habits, So when I do a workshop or do something, do a death ceremony, do a releasing, and then I don't really be intentional with that, I tend to, wake up the next morning and my wife pisses me off or the kid gets on my nerves, and all that energy kind of flows down that old pattern or that old belief system. And I take things personally because it's just an energetic, it's got to go somewhere. We are artists, we are dreamers. Our job is to dream. We are going to dream no matter what. Do we want the dream to dream us, or do we want to be the dream master? Do we want to be flying above the dream and have that fluidity and say, here's what I want to create, or here's who I want to be in this moment? To me, in setting my intention, setting what it is I want to create this spring, it's really important kind of go one step kind of past what we think we want to create. And what I mean by that is we tend to go, okay, well, I want to, and I use this story a lot, but we tend to go, well, I want to travel the world and eat at lots of restaurants. And then what we do is we step in and we want to micromanage how our intention is going to be manifested. So, I go, okay, I have to make lots of money because that's the only way that's going to happen. What we tend to do, or in my experience of what we tend to do, is we really shut all the other doors of how that can happen. So somebody comes up to us and goes, hey, I got this job that pays very little. And we go, no, I can't take that job. And we stop listening. And the next line that they were going to say is, well, I'm going to fly you all over the world as a food critic, but the salary sucks. But, our point of view is we shut down at the point where we decided, okay, well, the only way that my dream can happen is I need to make lots of money. So I encourage us when we set our intention or we set our dream or when we move into this place of blossoming this spring is really put it out there. Is like, what is it? What do you really want? And to me, we can boil all of our intention, all of our dreaming, all of our blooming down to, I want to be happy and feel good. But, that gets kind of boring. So what do we want to create? We have a blank canvas always. And my intention is, to really wake up in the morning and consciously say, okay, what canvas am I going to pick? What colors am I going to use? What paintbrushes am I going to pick? What pastels am I going to use to really create this dream? And we have the power to paint whatever picture that we want to paint. So what is it that we want to create? And I always say, start with us first. Where do I want to be? I want to be, I want to have fluidity, and I want to be clear, and I want to be able to see. I want to be unattached to my agreements. But then I also want to throw myself a bone and go fetch it. And I want to say, well, I might want the retreat center, or, I want the BMW, or I want the perfect relationship, or if that even exists. But what is it that we want to create in our lives? Let's start with ourselves. Really think, what is it that I want as I die to these things? Who is it that I want to show up as? And dream limitless. When those stories come in that say, oh, I can't have that, or there's not enough of this, or I don't deserve that, or say, thank you for sharing. But I don't want your point of view on it. It's mine, and dream past that. Dream past it. It is unbelievable what we can create and who we can become and who we are, really. So what do you want this spring? What do you want to blossom? What do you want to grow? What is already done, in a sense, if you say so? So that I will pass it back to Mr. Six Owls.
Thank you, number two. That was beautiful. That was awesome. What's coming up for me as a wild man in spring, I am just full of all these ideas, and I keep a journal, I keep a notebook, and I write them all down. And I go back every couple of days and I look at them, and I feel like there's so many things that I want to do that it's really not like, what am I going to do? It's like, how am I going to get all of these things done? I'm going to start a Atlanta chapter of the Wild Man now that I got a home base in Atlanta now. I've gotten involved with the Mankind Project a lot more than I was involved before. I've got inspirations for a new series of tapes or audios for working on the book that I'm working on. I feel like I've got so much before me right now And it's not what am I going to create? It's like, how am I going to divide my energy into all these little pots? But what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite everybody to answer the question, as a wild man in spring, I am creating. So we're going to start with you, number 2.
All right.
As a wild man in spring, I am creating.
As a wild man in spring, I am creating abundance for sure. You know, I'm creating a lot of things, creating a firewalking instructor training school, really been considering writing a book around firewalking, have 2 or 3 big firewalking breathwork workshops, in one in the Cape, one in Pennsylvania, and really stepping into the abundance. I'm really stepping into those workshops with charging what I'm worth. You know, really charging what I'm worth. And as a spiritual teacher, you know, that is like one of the hardest things that we can do, you know, and I'm certainly let people come for workshops, you know, that need it, but, you know, I'm done working for nothing. I've put a lot of time and energy into the work that I've done, and certainly spent a lot of money. So I'm just stepping into that place of power and abundance. That's what I'm creating this spring, and a whole lot of it. And I hear you, Six Owls, like, there's a lot where to put my energy, you know. So.
Oh, thank you. We're going to move on to number 1.
All right. It's spring, and I'm creating the most vibrant, vivacious, amazing community of people that I've ever gathered together in my entire life. I mean, look at you men, and it's growing. It's turning into an amazing movement that has a heart and a mind of its own, and you guys are all a part of that. I am creating a community that also is beginning to include the women, you know, with the Wild Soul gatherings, and the women are starting to gather together at the Wild Woman retreat. That's going to be the weekend after ours. There's some really powerful things happening, and I'm grateful for the vision and also for having you amazing brothers to grow with in this way. We're setting a big ripple in the pond together, and it's because of our integrity, it's because of our clarity of vision, and it's because of our individual skills and traits. This is just going to get better and better and better. And so this is what I'm planting in my garden, and it's also reflected in the beauty of my physical garden in my yard and what it's producing, what it's putting on my table. So I am grateful for the abundance and look forward to growing more with that with you brothers this year and for years to come. Oh.
Oh, moving on to number 5.
Yes, so this is James Mayfield Smith, and I am creating a life where I tend to it in the same ways that I tend to my daughter, and I tend to others that are in front of me that I'm serving, where I'm going after my dreams. And when I find myself falling short, where I bring tremendous self-love. I'm really in a place right now of seeing how much love can I bring to myself, and how much compassion when I fall short. How much compassion can I bring to myself and find out what the unmet need is that's getting in the way, and meet that unmet need, love myself in that way, so that I can go after my dreams just by loving myself bigger and loving the people around me bigger. That's what I'm creating in this spring in my life.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, James. We're going to move it on to Joseph and his smiling face.
Thanks for that, James. My wife and I just started last Tuesday a workshop that we teach together every Tuesday night. So this is the first time my wife in 17 years has really stepped up by my side to be a teacher with me in the healing arts. We've committed to 32 consecutive weeks, so that's a beautiful thing. She's always kind of been in my shadow in business, and now I see, you know, I've seen her as an equal, but other people haven't, but now they are. And in addition to that, for the last 6 months, I've been working on an apprenticeship program where people hire me to work with me, commit to work with me every week for a year so they can learn how to be a transformer, a healer, a life coach, business coach. And I've got 2 people that have signed up for it already. It's a huge commitment. You know, they're flying out to have retreats at the house, and they're committing to meet for 48 weeks of the year. It's a beautiful thing. So for me, it's all about just my sacred agreement with my mission in the world, just developing more leaders that can go and develop more people and also my family, you know, just rising in consciousness with my whole family, my 12 and 14-year-old and my wife as one unit instead of me out ahead of, you know, thinking I'm out ahead of everybody. Now it's everybody's coming with, right? The family's the greatest crucible for love and change on this planet. So that's what we're doing here.
Oh, and I really enjoyed meeting your family the other day, Joseph. Beautiful family, great kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenny, you're up.
Okay. What I'm trying to do to prosper in the spring is to keep being able to have enough, making enough to be able to do the things around the house that we're doing here to help people grow and to keep our drumming circle going and to keep going to different things that will help me with my growth and to keep being positive on all my attitude and just to be a very good person. Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings to you, Kenny. That was beautiful. And I send my support to your drumming circle. We're going to move on over to grandfather.
What I'm creating is this feeling in my heart of well-being and of competence and of power. And so I'm creating that in everything that I do from the moment I'm awake and even in my dream time, as much as I possibly can. And I was born at the equinox time, at the vernal equinox time. And so I'm being reborn as we speak right now.
Oh, that's an exciting time. We're going to move to Rob. Yes, you're up, Rob.
I'm cultivating this spring is that I am actually doing this really intense training with Wim Hof, the Iceman. It's a program of breath work and sitting in ice baths and doing this whole training to cultivate your ability to control your parasympathetic nervous system completely. It's a mind over matter, full harnessing of what a human being is capable of, kind of pushing the threshold of our own physical competency. So I'm really excited about that because I'm doing this training every day. And in May, I'm going to actually train with the man himself.
Wow. When you said the ice baths, I immediately thought of number 2 because I know how he loves the cold.
Hey now, hey. I was thinking it too. I went, oh.
Well, I really honor that work that you're doing, Rob. And I want to get with you offline and ask you some details about that. So let's
My
connect,
pleasure.
and that would be awesome. So now we're going to pass it over to number 1. And number 1 is going to tell us a little bit about the some poetry and some logistics.
Some poetry and some logistics, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see. Roses are red, violets are blue. Come get wild, wild, wild.
That wasn't your best work, by the way, on that poem. So I invite you to try again.
Oh.
Absolutely poetic.
Well, I didn't come prepared with poetry, so I guess that's usually when I kind of like close my eyes and disappear out into the cloud forest or out into the waterfalls and let my words become the journey that we move on. I guess the invitation here would be look at this wall of faces. This is as close as we get when we're remote with all these modern electronics to gathering around the fire and talking about the hunt and talking about what we have found out in the forest and what we're bringing home and what we're seeking on the next journey, the next jaunt out into the forest. So I honor all you brothers for the work that you're doing, the journey in carving out how to create a sacred lifestyle that is abundant and is going to be opportunity to uplift others and to bring others closer to their true nature. I mean, it's an admirable venture to jump out in such a way. So in that same way, let's imagine that as you're going out on the hunt, that we are working together, and that sometimes, there's a certain place where Jeremy Pager has to do something by the cliff in order to keep the buffalo from going in one direction. And there's another place where James has to do the smoke signal at the right time. And there's another place where Joseph and Rob have to jump out of the bushes dressed in their furs, like whatever our shtick is, it's just like each one of you is bringing your own medicine forward in the world. And then we come here and we get to be the powerhouse team, like sitting around the fire and sharing our stories and our teachings and our medicine. And so again, I really encourage all of you, when you need the stretch, when you need the help, to reach out to others. We don't need to bring down the mastodon by ourselves. Most of the time, most men would get trampled if they tried to bring it down by themselves. So how big is your dream? And with that big dream, who's with you? Who are your shield mates? We often talk about that in our Asheville get-togethers here, our shield mates. Who are your brothers that that when one of them goes down, everybody else is going to be there to protect them and help them get back up and get back in the game, get back on the hunt, get back on the pitch. And so bring that forward and look at what we have coming up. For the Asheville men, we've got some awesome opportunities next weekend. April 22nd to 24th, Joseph and I and Rob will be gathering up with men in Hot Springs, North Carolina for the first spring Wildman. We've got about 11 men coming out for that. Really excited. We've got men coming in from Texas. We've got men coming down from Minneapolis, from the East Coast. We've got a great mix. And we also have quite a few veterans coming back too. So it's going to be a really nice mix where we can really create and build off the container that we have built off of in the past and really pass some of the traditions forward that have really come out, both with the August Wildman as well as the monthly get-togethers. Six Owls and Joseph and I will be doing a breath work here at my house on Sunday, May 8th. Really looking forward to that. I'll be doing live music with my brother Jojo, and Six Owls and Joseph will be guiding the journey. Really looking forward to that. We've got a lot of men coming out, both veterans from our past Wildman experiences, as well as new men who are really interested. What we also have coming up of course, is our big annual in August out at the Mountain Light Sanctuary, which is up in Barnesville, just north of Asheville. We'll be gathering out there. August 19th to 21st. And that'll also be the full moon. So this should be a really lively gathering out in the forest. I'm betting we're going to have between 45 and 55 men this year. A lot of the work that we've been doing together here as a larger group, and then a lot of the work that Joseph and Neil Foster and I have been doing with a lot of the work here in the Asheville area, as well as promoting nationally, is really taking off. We're going to see a lot of new men this year, and the level of interest and hunger that we are sensing in the men is gorgeous. And that's where, again, it's just like a look at this wall of faces. Let's round it. Let's look at this circle of men that have gathered around this fire to share our hunting stories, and think of all the men that are being gathered to this fire, that are being gathered to this visioning, that are being gathered to the sharings of the journey, of the hunt, of the gathering. In past months, we've had Stan and Joseph and Bill all putting together amazing experiences out their house. The last one we did was out at Stanley's place. We had, 13 men inside a teepee that Stanley just put up, and Stanley was on fire. It was awesome to see him. Rob and I just spent a good amount of time working with several of the wild men down in Guatemala and pushing up against some of the limitations, both biologically and mentally, that come up for people in extended trips like that, and look forward to being able to check in with those men again in the near future. The Six Owls, being down in Atlanta now, is going to be making a big movement to gather up a chapter of wild men down in Atlanta, because there's a lot of men down there that are hungry for this type of work, and looking forward to seeing that grow in other cities over the next year or so. Probably Minneapolis, probably Cincinnati, probably Kansas City, probably Nashville. Who knows where else? I'm excited. We're making some beautiful things happen I'm really looking forward to, again, stepping up the container of how the wild man reflects into the world in terms of our sacred agreements coming up next weekend, again, with Joseph in Hot Springs. And even more so, the next part of the journey is stepping into embodying the wild man. How are we bringing that into our body temples? How are we bringing that home? How are we bringing that to our families? How is it informing our actions, our deeds, our business ventures, our friendships? This is Wildman. And it's so good to share this with you, to be this alive with you, brothers. So hopefully you'll have an opportunity to join us, if not in April, which is next weekend, in August. If you're in the Asheville area, look to join us for our monthly meetups. We are Wildmen on Facebook. We have a group there for posting events that are coming up. Looking for events starting in the Atlanta area here pretty soon. And we hope to see you at the circle, by the fire, sharing your medicine, sharing your tales. And let's see if we can refine our hunt, our skills just a little bit more, so that we can step that much closer to our greatness, to our large self, to that which many of us have been afraid to become. That's what we're doing. So we're stepping closer to that. Oh, thank you, brothers.
Oh.
Now, I've been to many events that are $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. You're getting this for under $500. It's just an incredible value. And I just want to put that out there so you know what we're talking about here is very doable for most men.
Thank you, James. I'm just going to real quickly see if there's any questions about the gathering, any questions for any of the facilitators, any questions at all.
I got a quick question.
All right.
Just piggybacking off what James said, since I've been to lots of Anthony Robbins events and lots of different breakthroughs events, and easily found it was worth $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. Do we feel the prices are probably going to go up in 2017, knowing we're in quite a different realm, but giving the same impact?
What I can tell you is that we made the choice this year. We're in a growth phase. So we made the choice to make this a very affordable opportunity. We have to make that decision next year about what phase we're going to enter into.
That's right. I would love to invite Joseph just to share a little bit more about what we're doing next weekend, just so people can get a flavor of what some of Joseph's medicine is coming forward, and then we can walk it out. Would you mind, Joseph?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Well, and piggybacking off, the last fall Wild Men, I think danger is real, but fear is a choice. And that's one of the greatest medicines that I've got in working with Jeremy, number 2 there, and really all of you, is danger is real, but fear is a choice. And I think that we see obstacles in our life. For me, sometimes it's, well, I got 2 teenage kids, or my wife needs my help here, or I have 50 active coaching clients. And like Jeremy said, we get life pulls on us. And I start to have obstacles come up, and those obstacles look dangerous. But are they really dangerous? No. It's just my fear. It's just my ego, my false self projecting that this item, this obstacle, which is actually not dangerous, it's not dangerous. My ego is just afraid of it because I'm not looking close enough. I'm not looking to my brothers. I'm not looking for some outside perspectives, how I could take that obstacle and actually let it fuel me and turn it into a strength. And I'm also not looking close enough at my agreement with God, with myself, my agreement with my wife, my children, my outreach with my work, my friends. I'm not looking close enough sometimes at these agreements. And that's, I think that's what all this Wild Men's about, whether we call it no matter what we call it, right? We all have these sacred agreements, agreements that we don't always talk about, but yet they define our lives. They define how we show up in every conversation, every relationship, everything that we do. We're either showing up in a big way as our true self, or we're showing up in a small way, or somewhere in between. And fear really will be the thief of our dreams. Fear, the distortion of fear, is what really takes us away, clouds our vision, and keeps us playing small in our life. And so this weekend with Sacred Agreements, we're going to get really clear on what are our sacred agreements, and let's redefine them. Let's redefine what our sacred agreements are really about. And through doing that, we can actually show up in a much bigger way every day in our life, in every conversation that we're in. We can be our true self. We can unleash that giant within us No matter where we are, we can be the light that changes the world. We can be that light in the darkness in every single place in our life. I think, little things we do can be huge if we're honoring our sacred agreements. And I think a lot of men, from what I gather, they're either completely unaware of what their mission in this world is because they are so busy and weighed down with so many responsibilities, or focused on making money, or somewhere in between of all that. Or I think what Robert said, I've got so many ideas, man. It's like they're burning through my skull. It's like, where am I going to find the time to balance? And like, which one do I really focus on? And how do I stay balanced? So I think we have men that are just, we just don't even know what our real sacred agreement, our real mission on earth is. And then we're like, Robert, we got so many. It's like, where do we focus? How do we balance? Right. And we've got some of us in between, but if we come together, right? If we come together and allow each other to support us on a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual level, and continue to do that, we can find the time, we can find the balance, we can find the focus, we can find the confidence, right? And we can take every obstacle and turn it into our fuel and let go of the fear. So I'm grateful to be here with these amazing men. James, you really touched my heart in the last event. I just absolutely loved your piece with it. And Robert Six Owls, this deep soul connection with you, brother. Love the breath work and everything you're bringing. And Grandfather Mowgli, I cried my eyes out in the grief circle with you, brother. And I loved it, man. I love the medicine that you bring. And Jeremy, thank you, number 2, for what you did with the firewalk. That's the longest firewalk I've ever done. I've never seen people do handstands and cartwheels and stuff ever, and I've done tons of firewalks. So thank you all, you great men. And I just, my wish is that people watching this video decide to step in and decide to be their bigger self, and know that these men here can help you do that.
Oh, thank you, Joseph.
Man. Oh.
So we're going to turn it over to Grandfather now.
There we go.
Okay. So, death feeds life. All life lives because of death. The springtime is when the death has been in the underworld, and it's been feeding until the life force just breaks out from underground, and it pushes itself up through the soil, and it brings food to every living thing so that life can continue. We use that as a metaphor for our own growth. And the wild man knows this in his soul. Every cell of his body is doing that all the time and knows it. And there's always an opportunity to get to know it deeper. If you want to, you could take the crystal that you got from our last August get-together. And if you don't need to use a crystal. You can use your imagination. And go outside when we're finished with this call, or at least in the next couple of days before the full moon. Take that crystal out and hold it to your heart, and let everything that's dead in you that you're carrying around, that's stinky and being dragged behind and is not doing anybody any good, let that go from your heart into the crystal, and then take the point of the crystal and put that into the earth. Because that feeds the earth. You're feeding Mother that way. And then when you feel the energy moving, when you actually have a physical sense of energy moving out of me and into the earth, when you feel that, and maybe you need to spit, or maybe you need to say something, or make a noise or something as part of that, then take that crystal and point it up towards the sky, and let the base of it sit in the earth, and let that death energy that's underneath the earth come up and into your heart. Let it come up from the ground and into your heart. And that is to celebrate the rebirth of spring. So I want to thank everyone for this coming to this call, and I guess we're recording this, so it'll go on to other people as well. I want to really honor James for the hard work that he did to make this happen. Six Owls, you did a spectacular job of keeping us on time, and I want to honor number 2 for what I knew would be a really great thing about what we're creating. And number 1, my hat is totally off to you for all of the gifts that you bring. Thank you so much Thank you so much, and thank you to the spirits, and thank you to the earth. Aho, Mitakuyasu.
Oh.
All right. Good night, man.
Oh,
And
good night, everyone.
good night. Good night, Kenny.
All right. Good night.
Good night, Joseph.
Good night.
Good night, Rob.
Rob.
Brother.